we'd like to thank Game Up for supporting the podcast. They make a thirst-quenching adult beverage with a special blend of electrolytes, a hard hydration drink. Comes in 4 flavors currently: fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape.
It's a low-carb, 100 and only 110 calories, so get yourself some Game Up. UFC 300, it was definitely one of the best cards I think that we had ever seen. I'm not going to say it's the greatest card of all time, but it definitely was, no doubt, just a tremendous card when you look at it from top to bottom. Let's talk. I mean, do you want to just kind of mention some of these other fights? Just go.
Yeah, we can go right through them quickly if you want. So, yeah. Deiveson Figueiredo got a second round submission over Cody Garbrandt. Cody was looking pretty good. He had the speed advantage for sure, but once Figueiredo realized that, he took him down, and Cody's a wrestler, so not great off his back. So he tried to fight out. He did fight out of an arm triangle that he was head and arm choke that was pretty tight. But on his way up, he gave up his back, and Deiveson snatched on there. So good for Deiveson. First win in bantamweight. He moves on.
Yeah, and I'm just going to give quick potential opponents for all these people, too, because I think there's so many great potential fights in the future. Deiveson is rolling. At this point, I would get him a big fight at bantamweight, and I think Marlo Chito Vera would be perfect because he just lost a huge fight, big name. Hey, let's see if Deiveson can beat Marlon. If he can't, that's okay. Great win for Marlon, so I like that one.
I think that's a big jump. You know who I'd like to see him go against? Maybe a Dominic Cruz. Yeah. I don't know if Cruz wants to do that at this point in his career, but he is always talking about how you can't always fight up. So that might be a good matchup. I'd like to see his footwork against the power of Figueiredo. So, All right, let's move on to the next fight. Bobby Green gets a unanimous decision over Jim Miller. Jim Miller's eye was absolutely demolished. Bobby just way too quick in there for him, too slick. Jim never gave up. He was always coming forward, but he really couldn't land on Bobby.
Yeah. Jim looked all right in that first round, had moments where he was in it, but definitely Bobby really turned it on by the end of the first round and never really looked back. I thought Bobby Green was just very impressive here, and no disrespect to Jim. I just felt like Bobby showed he's at a different level in his career right now. Happy for Bobby. His next fight, he called it, Paddy Pimblett, and a great call it was, and that's definitely the fight I'd like to see.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess Paddy said something about Bobby Green. I don't know what he said, but we can't be doing that, so he's going to learn today, you know. Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. Split decision for Andrade.
Andrade got the win. There's not really a lot to say. This is one of those fights that wasn't very memorable. And as far as her next opponent, I don't even have one. I'm not sure because Andrade is in this weird position where she's kind of lost to some of the key players, but beat a lot of the people around her. So I don't really know what you do.
Yeah, it's tough. And she's fought everyone at all 3 weight divisions that so it's tough. I get that. So a featured bout on the early prelims, Jalen Turner versus Renato Moicano. Moicano ends up with a second round TKO.
And this is probably most famous for Jalen really kind of just blowing it because he had a chance, rocked Moicano, and then walked away like a walk-away KO. It was not. And Moicano came back in round 2, got it done. As far as the next opponent, we're talking lightweight. I think moving up that ladder, a guy who's had some tough luck recently, but is still a name in his division, Beneil Dariush.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good. Good fun on the ground for sure. Getting into the regular prelims, Sadiq Youssef versus Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez comes out with another fantastic first round finish. Looked absolutely great.
I'm sure he got taken care of, but if this was on any other show, this guy would have been guaranteed a bonus. Phenomenal performance. As far as next fight goes, Sadiq was a great one. I'd like to see him go up against Edson Barboza, who's actually a little bit ahead in the rankings, a bigger name, but also a little bit older. So I think it's just a logical step for him.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good progression for sure. Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. Kayla was able to get the second round submission.
Kayla looked strong. She looked really strong as weight class. No surprise there. As long as she continues to make weight, she's going to be a problem for anybody. Amanda Nunes has always shown interest if Kayla can win this title in the next year. I'd say knowing that, I'd try to fast track her. I got 1 or 2 fights. For me, it's either Caitlin Vera, who is right up there in the top 2, 3, 4, wherever she's ranked. And you could do that one. She could win that and then meet the winner of Juliana versus Raquel Pennington. All right. And If you don't want to do that just yet, and you want to have a fun fight, there's a name out there named Miesha Tate. That's a quality name. You can do that as well.
Did you see Amanda's Instagram post where she was showing herself and the TV, and it was Kayla doing her post-fight speech, and Amanda was just pointing at her ear, waiting for the call out, and it never came. She was a little bit disappointed, I think. But so yeah, in the future, if Kayla can continue to make that weight, that would definitely breathe some life back into women's MMA for sure.
And Inez, you taking everything I work for.
Yeah, exactly. Right. All right. Featherweight bout. Calvin Kattar loses a decision to Aljo on Aljo's first venture up to featherweight.
Other than a power bomb that potentially happened at one point in the fight, this was not a very fun fight, not stylistically very exciting, but probably what Sterling needed to do in his first fight at featherweight against a quality opponent. He wrestled him, he got him down, and he got the win. So I'd say good for him. Give him a pass on this first fight stylistically. Let him get his feet wet and see how he does. The other thing is another thing too for Sterling to do this. I mean, he probably saw he would have loved a $300,000 bonus, but he knew the murderers on there and that wasn't going to happen. So you got the win. I'll tell you what, you want to get an interesting fight with Sterling right now. This guy is so great at wrestling. Throw in Brian Ortega. Throw in a guy that can put a slick submission on you right there. If Ortega's not fighting for the title next, which we don't know if he is because we don't know what's going on with Max. We'll talk about that later. Ortega could be a great fight for Sterling.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big jump for him, but he is a former champion, so it's possible. Also, I don't think Dana was too happy with that performance, and Brian's probably a pretty tough opponent for him, so that's very possible that he gets thrown to the wolves next. So featured bout on the prelims, one of the best fights on the card, one of the best fights of the year, Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic.
This fight would have also been fight of the night if it wasn't for another fight later on this card. That being said, it was still enough for Prochazka to get a bonus. Prochazka hit. So actually, I would say Alex looked good until he didn't, right? He was working Prochazka early on, but then Prochazka, that unorthodox style, kept putting the pressure on, and eventually he got the results he wanted. He got the finish. As far as another fight for Prochazka goes, to me, it's got to be one of two things here. He could always do a rematch with Pereira, depending on what Pereira is going to do next. Or, if Pereira is not going to fight this guy, here's another guy, Magomed Ankalaev, right? Now, I think Ankalaev could end up getting a title shot, but if it's not one of those two fights, Prochazka's almost probably better just waiting right now, But,
yeah, I'm with you on that. He's kind of, because he just lost the title shot, he's kind of in a weird spot. Looked great though. Second round KO, by the way. I forgot to say.
Let's get this main card.
Yeah. All right. Main card started off with Bo Nickal getting a unsurprising second round submission against Cody Brundage.
Bo Nickal, great performance. He was very disappointed because he's a supreme athlete. That can be looked at as two ways, by the way. He could be putting too much pressure on himself and it could be difficult, or he's putting just the right amount of pressure on himself because that's how he gets to where he is. We'll see. But really, too, as far as the performance goes, for anyone who didn't see it, it was a second round submission. Brundage he got out of some predicaments early on. He just didn't get wasted like everybody else. But in the end, Bo was still superior almost everywhere. So to me, nothing wrong here. I can't really pick another fight for this guy right now at this point in his career other than keep doing what you're doing. Try to find another guy like a Cody Brundage that's going to maybe keep him going up to this upward trajectory here.
Yeah, I think he saw, some of Khamzat's finishes early on, and he wanted to be like that where he just blows through everyone. I did see Khamzat was not impressed with Cody with Bo's wrestling. So, I mean, I'm sure that's a fight that we'll see in the future if Khamzat ever fights. I don't know. I never feel like he's going to fight, but progression for Bo Nickal, but he is still human, we saw. So Charles Olivera loses a split decision to Arman Tsarukyan.
Yeah, I don't think this was split. I like Charles. Charles definitely, I felt, had him in that first round, although I can see where some people didn't, but I thought Charles was so close to getting him to either pass out or tap out. Like, it was really tight guillotine choke. But afterwards, Arman really was able to kind of figure Charles out a little bit. Like he was good into scrambles. He was able to avoid getting submitted, and he was better on the feet overall. Arman and Islam really both, I feel like, have shown they know how to neutralize Charles Oliveira, which did not look like a possibility. That just shows you what a problem Arman is, and Arman really probably should get a title shot. We know Dustin Poirier is going to get one now. We'll talk about that later in the show. So as far as he goes, he should either maybe wait and fight the winner of Dustin Islam if it's a possibility. If it's not, I mean, Justin Gaethje's right there.
Yeah, I would assume, and we'll talk about this later, even though this fight is not at 155, the winner of Conor and Chandler will get the next title shot versus whoever wins, Poirier or Islam. So
Justin Gaethje's right there.
Yeah.
So you might want to start. And Justin, you lost, so now you have to look at it too, and Justin knows that. So this might be the fight to take.
Yeah, so yeah, but Arman looked great. He did what I thought he was going to do. Charles was close to catching him. He had that guillotine early, and the fact that Arman was able to get out of that, it was very early in the fight when both guys are still dry and everything. It was very tight. I thought it was over. Great job getting out. And then he got caught in that Darce at the end, but good defense to just lay flat so Charles couldn't put the pressure on his neck. So, and he couldn't collect his legs to fold him over. So he did the right things. He was caught in submissions, which we haven't really seen Islam done yet. So Arman still very young. So I believe he still has a bit of growing to do. He hasn't reached his peak, but he's still given Islam his toughest fight so far. So I want to see him fight again. Fight of the night, fight of the year, fight maybe one of the best performances I've ever seen. Justin Gaethje gets KO'd in the last second of the fight by Max Holloway, the new BMF champion.
Yeah. What was it? He said, I want to call it blessed man forever belt now.
Yes, that's right.
Max looked phenomenal. We talked about this, we really, we talked about on this channel, we really started to really think the more about as we got close to this fight that this was going to be Max's night. And part of it was that amazing chin that he has. And I think that was showcased somewhat here. Dustin, but even more than that, it was just the speed. Max had that speed where Justin was really loading up. And there was a point where Justin knocked him down. I don't think it was ruled a knockdown, actually.
No, it wasn't ruled a knockdown, but it certainly looked like a knockdown to me.
Even Max said, he says, good on him if he got it. I don't know if they did, but good on him if they got it. So, yeah. So Justin, and he had some bad stuff. Max had got him early, then accidentally got a couple eye pokes too. So Justin was really struggling, but take nothing away from the performance of Max here. Other than that, round 4, he was just constant volume, getting in and out. He ate some leg kicks, which is a concern. I don't think we talked about too much in this channel, but me and Chevy talked off air about it as we got closer. Like, we kind of missed that, and he certainly did, but it was not enough to really stop him. Overall, again, what a performance. He did enough to get the win, but then the last 10 seconds, what everybody's talking about, he does one of these, right, which he's done before with Ricardo Lamas. And
he's pointing down at the center of the cage, giving Justin Gaethje his opportunity, even though he's beat him for 4 rounds.
Yeah, and they did it out, and boy, Justin, he risked it all, and it did not work. Max laid him out with 1 second remaining.
Bad face plant, too.
Yeah, which ended up being Max now getting 2 bonuses instead, because it would have probably just been fight of the night. And who knows, it might not have been fight of the night because the other one was so good, but I think that made it fight of the night and the performance of the night. So good on Max. He gets the double bonus, but beyond that, too, he's now elevated what was already a superstar career to another level, and he's put himself in a great position here because when we talk about next fights, this guy can fight Ilya now at featherweight, which I think is probably what we're going to do since we have Islam and Dustin, but he could also fight the winner of Islam and Dustin. And, again, and then you have Conor possibly in the background. If Conor beats Chandler, right, we'll talk about it later, Max and Conor could be a fight for the BMF title. Max has put himself in a golden position here. Good on him.
Yeah, I'm still days later really at a loss for words. We did our live show, so if you want to see the reaction, you can go back and check out the reactions. But it was still at a bit of a loss of words. It was very impressive. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. He believed in himself the whole time. And now he's made other people believe too. So glad that he's getting this opportunity. He can go wherever he wants from here now. Lots of options.
Yeah, and all these fights are going to be tough ones for him. Even Dustin, because if you think Justin's leg kicks, were a problem, Dustin's going to be a real problem with leg kicks. But that's just if Dustin pulls off the upset. But Islam, obviously, the wrestling would be a nightmare. Ilya might, like you said, might wrestle. Plus, he's got a lot of speed himself there. He might be the quickest out of all the guys he could fight. There's always the featherweight weight cut, which Max has made plenty of times, but might like lightweight. Conor would be, I think, probably the most exciting fight for him because he would make a ton of money if Conor beat Chandler, and it'd be a lot of it. Plus, stylistically, they're going to just trade.
Right.
So I think this would be a big difference in that fight they had like almost a decade ago or whatever it was. But in the end of the day, too, even though some of these fights are going to be tough, just like with Justin, like we said, this is the kind of guy he can win. He's got great wrestling, takedown defense, and he's one of the best strikers of all time.
Also, it has gone unnoticed, I think, but his corner did a great job preparing him for this, or, he did great job watching tape, because he knew every time that Justin would shell up and lean over to one side, and that's when he would angle off and land shots. Or that's also how he landed that spinning back kick that shattered Justin's nose at the end of the first round. So I don't think people talk enough about his fight IQ, but I think that was a big part of this win for him. And then obviously the guy is crazy and worthy of the BMF belt, and he throws the game plan out the window at the end and points to the center of the octagon. Strawweight title, Zhang Weili retains her belt against Yan Xiaonan.
Yeah, Zhang Weili really had this won in the first round. Choked out Yan as the bell rang and was choked out. Like, Yan was staggering to her corner. You definitely could have called it here. I think there's an argument to be made. They could have called it. That being said, Yan would come back, get herself in more trouble, but then eventually, I think, take like one of the later rounds.
Round 3, yeah.
Yeah, round 3 or 4, I was going to say. So, yeah, so she, she was tough. And there, and man, this fight, if it had anything going against it, it just came off that crazy fight that just happened. I think Dana White said it best. There was an adrenaline dump, and unfortunate for them because a lot of eyes on them. They're trending in China, which is very, difficult to do. I understand. People were talking to the press conference. They had reporters from China there, and they were very interested in what's going to be next. And hey, great on Weili Zhang. She gets to win. I think maybe Catalina Suarez could be next. Just looking at the rankings. Because I think Weili's still got to beat more people, but if she keeps doing this, eventually Weili's probably going to be looking at maybe going up and trying to be a double champ because she's on that way right now.
It was a good fight, but like you said, just placement on the card, unfortunate for them. They had to follow Max and Justin. So good performance, showcased some grappling. Yan did better on the ground than I thought that she would. I thought that Weili had multiple opportunities to finish it. She probably should have, but good performance. The light heavyweight title bout, Alex Pereira KOs Jamahal Hill in the first round.
Unbelievable. Another unbelievable performance here. I thought Pereira, could catch him, and I thought Pereira might find a way to win. I also thought Jamahal Hill could present problems for him, but just the ultimate gangster move, where Herb goes to stop the fight for a minute because Pereira just got low blowed, and he's just like, stop, and stops Herb Dean, sends him away, and then literally in the next couple seconds lays out Jamahal. What I'm so impressed here is the laser focus to see Herb Dean out of your peripheral, stop him. I know what I'm doing.
And he never took his eyes off of Jamahal either.
Never took his eyes off Jamahal and then lays him out. That is a superior striker right there. And really, really nasty power. They talked about it on the broadcast afterwards, how his hands are so big and the kind of power that
he broke Ngannou's record on the punch cube.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So
just crazy power. He's a problem. He's a problem for people, but he's still very young in this game, but he's already an all-timer at MMA, right? He's a Hall of Famer at this point. Like, there's no reason. 2 championships, 2 weight classes, main evented UFC 300, and won in a first-round knockout. Like, this man is something else. He's already put together a hell of a career, and he has interest at heavyweight and fighting on the Brazil card. He mentioned Tom Aspinall. Obviously, it won't be Jones, but man, I don't know if they'll do that because Dana talked in the press conference that I think he ought to stay in his division. He says, because he's knocking people out here. These heavyweights are tough. That sounds like Dana, unless he's downplaying it. But I mean, wow. You talk about, we have UFC 302 and 303 coming up with big main events now. And I think 301 is lacking a little bit. But if you put Tom Aspinall on there defending the interim heavyweight championship against the light heavyweight champion, Alex Pereira, I'm sold. Like, that makes me excited about this card. And again, it's the interim title. I'm not against Alex doing it because he's such a special kind of fighter for what he's doing. That being said, if he's going to stick around, I think Ankalaev is the rightful number one contender right now. Also, the worst matchup. That's not to say that Tom's a horrible matchup too. But with Tom, the prize is a lot sweeter. The risk,
right? There's nothing to lose when you're going up out of your division. You're striving for greatness. So I think it's worth the loss because you can always come back and try to defend that light heavyweight belt. And Tom looked like he wanted it. There's the picture that he posted, and in the foreground is Alex getting, the Vaseline rubbed on him. Tom is looking at him hungry.
One other thing, there is a big, I believe it's a pay-per-view coming up in Manchester too this year. They haven't put the card together. We feel like it's going to be Patty Pimwit and Bobby Green. You could do that down there. If Jones and Stipe are going to fight later, you could always do Alex Pereira and Tom Aspinall in the UK as well, and that would be big as well. So, even though they're not talking about doing that fight right now, there's a couple different options here.
Enough buzz, and Dan will be talking about it. So,
yeah, I'd love to see it in Brazil, but
yeah, I don't think that's going to happen just because there's not enough time to promote that really the way that they would want to, because that is such a big fight. So,
yeah,
it was overall though. Thoughts on the card?
Yeah, overall, one of the best cards of all time. I won't say the best. I always hesitate. I'd have to go back and look, but certainly going to be in the top 3, top 4.
Right. Maybe not the best marquee fight. That BMF title fight is up there, but I obviously very biased. But I think overall, top to bottom, the depth of the card, so many former and current champions, legends, that's definitely up there for me. Top 3 probably.